for the heavy bench top, but also for the side-to-side forces from planing and bashing away at material.
I wonder if he listens to music or audiobooks.
I feel like woodworkers are naturally patient people. After all, it takes time to create beautiful things, and the process of each plane shaving and every tap of the mallet is an enjoyable one, where all the worries in the world just seem to fall away. I always like to refer to the wise words by John from Lincoln Street Woodworks, who says, "Patience is bitter, but its fruit is sweet." That's some truly wise words there, John.
Wait, I have never said that. Like, ever.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
All right, well, screw that idea. Patience is overrated anyway. I mean, let's face it.
I'll be doing audiobooks, same Cronin. So good. One of my favorite times have been spent listening to audiobooks while woodworking.
Meticulously setting up my hand plane and making that first shaving as it catches the morning light just isn't possible for me at this point. I have a business to run, furniture to design, projects to build, videos to edit, photos to take, bills to pay, plus making mortise and tenons is boring. Not to mention the fact that I have 14 of these things to make. Ugh.
Just sit in silence and think what I would be saying to the voiceover.
To create these joints. Doing it this way is quick, repeatable, and accurate, and it leaves me more time to add in more creative elements like this.
When you're building furniture, there's a lot of time. You spend so much time just doing the same thing kind of vibe. Especially with sanding. Yeah, Buns crafting interior monologue, me too. That's good, Buns. You look like you got your shit figured out a lot there. Your shit just never goes how you think it will. True. So true. Is that leather? No. Oh, it's a ball veneer.
Now, the reason for adding in these carved leg details is to help lighten the look of the Roubo workbench, which can tend to look a little bottom heavy as the base needs to be chunky to provide a solid foundation for the work area. And the reason for the veneer,
Greg Croft and I have a lot of finesse, but the point is I feel like with time it's pretty much an experiment. Oh yeah.
Veneer is really going to pop. Especially once you see what I do to the leg vise.
I've embraced the experiment part of it though. I feel like if something is not an experiment, I'm not like living on the edge, you know? Yeah, true. There's always, like when you make stuff, a lot of the time is going to be spent fixing your own fuck up.
Now, even though I wasn't a big fan of the mortise and tenons, I did find
no matter how careful you are.
If you're unsure of what this is, basically placing a dowel through a joint stops the joint from ever coming apart. But with a draw bore, you slightly offset the hole on the tenon, which means once you bash the dowel through the joint, the offset hole in the tenon pulls the joint closed, like an inbuilt clamp.
This is what Doof was talking about. Who is this guy? Padula Studio is this thing. Mick Padula. Mick. Wow. What a name. Mick. It's gonna be a little bit short, right? Ah.
Like I said, the drawbores act as clamps to hold the joints together. The only reason why I'm using clamps here is to help square everything up before adding in the dowels. Now, the design
that's
of this
smart.
base is very important when it comes
Using
to
like
bench
a
top, as the
skewer?
full top and the split top require different setups. Each leg gets firmly attached to the outside edges of the worktop. The split top needs support in the center from a rail, and because there's a gap in between the two sides, this will allow for the top to expand and contract into the center of the bench. The full top, on the other hand, will expand and contract over its entire width. If we add a rail, like on the other side, then the full top won't be able to move freely, resulting in either a broken joint or a cracked top. But I have added some extra brackets to the legs. These aren't fixed to the top, so it can still move freely. And the idea behind this is to add a little extra support to stop the bench top from sagging. This is probably overkill, but I thought I'd just add it just in case. I've also added a bracket to the extended section of the split top, as it does hang over the leg quite a bit.
I like the lighting at the back.
Now, I hope I didn't ruin anyone's fantasy of what it is to be a
Nothing wrong with overkill
when
it comes to make
one of the most
furniture, especially workbenches.
I absolutely love it and wouldn't change my career for anything. And to be honest, if I won the lottery tomorrow, I would still be in my workshop.
Long as it doesn't
the most intricate pieces I
hinder.
could possibly think of. After 6 months in Italy, of course. It does take patience to be a good woodworker. After all, great things take time. I'd say I'm the most patiently impatient person you'll ever meet. I'm happy to meticulously obsess over intricate details, but have absolutely no patience for anything that gets in my way.
This is cool.
Like a faulty tool or the
Very
inability
cool.
to clamp a piece properly. That's why this bench is going to massively help my productivity and general outlook on what I make from now on. And one of those things that's going to make
I should probably get one of those
from this point on is the custom-made pop-up dogs, which I can't wait to show you next.
What are those things at the sides of those legs?
I mentioned at the beginning of the video that my current workbench is frustrating because the dog holes fill up with sawdust. So my solution to this is to have a bench dog in every dog hole. I've decided to go with square dogs, as I like the idea of having a wide flat surface to clamp with. And even though it would have been much easier to create the square holes before gluing up the top, I wasn't entirely sure of the setup until this point. But this process wasn't too difficult. It's just a matter of drilling out the waste, then using a template and guide bearing with a plunge router. One of the main requirements though is I want the easiest access possible, so I'm going to add a pop-up mechanism to each bench dog. The common issue that I face as a professional furniture maker is the level at which I progress as a maker isn't on par with the evolution of my shop. What I mean by that is I'm continually building more and more difficult things, but my workbench and ways of processing material isn't handling the new techniques as efficiently as I would hope.
I relate to that.
The great thing about this bench is each and every clamp has multiple uses, and the bench top is going to evolve as I use it.
Ooh,
I'm adding in the necessary dog holes right now, but I've kept the templates so I can add more in the future if necessary. Not to mention the fact that I can easily drill 3/4 inch holes for different clamps like holdfasts whenever I need them. Now, these bench dogs are incredibly easy to make, not to mention the fact that they're also cheap. I use offcuts from the bench's legs, and I've simply just milled the material slightly smaller than the size of the dog hole, then matched the radius of the router cutter I used to create the dog holes. But where this dog truly shines is the mechanism. This is called a tip-on for doors mechanism by Bloom, and it's perfect for this application. And at the end of the day, making them this way has turned out much cheaper than buying pre-made pop-up dogs. Now, you may be thinking that this level of detail is excessive for a workbench. If that's the case, then you may want to close your eyes for the next part, because this is where things really begin to get over the top. This is a madrone burl. You've already seen me use it on the leg detail, but this is where it's really going to get shown off. Now, is adding veneer to your workbench overkill? Yes, but it's awesome.
Why am I so
I'm
tired?
going to be using a finishing technique to this burl shortly that is actually a practice run for an upcoming whiskey cabinet. In fact, if you like this piece, then you'll love the whiskey cabinet. This part of the bench is called the chop. And it's
Pizza coma, maybe. I was up like pretty early this morning, went to the gym.
I feel like this is where the workbench begins to turn into a fine piece of furniture, and then started classify it as that. I obviously have high hopes that this bench will be the inspiration for many fine pieces of mine in the future. But if you want to see fine furniture right now, I'd suggest checking out the Australian furniture maker Darren Oates, who creates beautiful pieces for private commissions and gallery work. Not to mention the fact that he has one of my favourite woodworking channels on YouTube, where he delves into his processes on veneering, steam bending and vacuum pressing. I will admit his video pacing may be a little slower than what you're used to these days, but I can assure you he gives a valuable insight into the world of professional furniture making.
That's nice.
I'll leave a link to his Instagram and YouTube channel below, and if you like his videos, be sure to subscribe to his YouTube channel. Hopefully that'll encourage him to make more YouTube videos, because let's face it, I want to see more. I'm almost positive that if I didn't get into furniture making, I would have become a luthier. I'm obsessed with guitar making and designs, and that's where the inspiration of this chop came from, as the design was inspired by the headstock from an Ibanez, which was one of the first electric guitars I ever owned. This staining technique is a common one used with guitar making. It's commonly known as popping the grain and utilizes the random nature of the burl to create a beautiful ripple effect. I've also added a slight sunburst, which is another technique used on guitar finishes. I actually have a 25-minute video over on Patreon where I go into detail about this entire process. I'll leave a link below with a preview video of what to expect if you're interested. Now, once that clear coat goes on, you'll really see that life.
That's book matched. Yeah, it looks very good.
One of the biggest issues with heavy workbenches is the ability to move them when necessary. This is way more important when you have a small shop, and I'm fortunate enough to have a big space, but I still want to move this bench out of the way for when I'm building large items. Now, you can buy fold-down casters specifically for workbenches, but from what I've heard, they're not the best quality. Plus, I didn't spend all this time on making my workbench look as cool as possible to then add these ugly things to the outside.
What's wrong with those?
I've come up with a solution that not only easily takes the weight of this 300 kilogram workbench, but also it's easy to engage, moves freely in any direction, and is completely hidden.
Interesting, okay.
These are 2 motorcycle lifts. Having both of them disperses the weight more evenly, and I'll leave a link to these below. I've had to customize them slightly, as well as add some better quality casters, but thanks to the carefully planned out rail that I assembled earlier, these lifts can bolt onto the base. Then it's just a matter of being able to access the screw mechanism that engages the lift. This is all going to happen with the socket handles that came with the lifts, plus a spare one that I have from another lift that I own, as well as some leftover brass I have from old jobs.
What is that? Is that brass? Oh, that looks nice.
I will admit quite a lot of effort went into this wheel system. It's a bit of a shame that all this hard work gets covered up with plywood, but the next section I'm going to work on contains a mechanism that can be shown off if I choose to, and to be honest, I'm quite proud with how this turned out. This is a gap stop, but could also be called a plane stop or tool rest depending on what you're using it for. And these are common with split top Rubo benches, although they are generally quite cumbersome to use, which in all honesty, if it's not easy, I won't use it. So I've come up with a solution to have a pop-up gap stop.
Ooh.
Using some carefully designed plywood guides and a template, I'm able to position the guides onto the workbench and use the template to route out the same shape onto the gap stop. The plywood guides are designed to allow the gap stop to be fully removed, as well as have a low profile, because one of the main reasons for having the split top bench is so I can remove the gap stop and place my regular shop clamps down the center of the bench, and I don't want the guides to interfere with the clamps. Some of my favourite things about woodworking is all the intricate details, as well as figuring out solutions to problems such as the cumbersome gap stop and my solution to clamping unusual shape, which you'll see next. But this gap stop sliding mechanism is useless without something to help push it along. So I've used the same Bloom push catches I used on the bench dogs, except I've used the long version for this application. And I was actually quite impressed with how this all turned out.
Yeah. So this is just to take it out, yeah?
This part of the bench is probably my most favorite. The fact that the bench top extends past the rest of the bench provides a small work surface that allows 3 sides of access to smaller pieces I'm working on. Plus, the shoulder style vise is going to open up a world of possibilities, as I can now make custom clamping plates to suit whatever unusual piece I'm working on. This clamping plate is designed to clamp pieces that are curved in all different directions by creating an area that constantly allows 3 points.
I wonder what happened to his hand.
Then, depending on the direction of the curvature, I can simply rotate the plate to suit. And because the bench top sticks out past the rest of the bench, I can spoke shave or carve the unusually shaped piece from 3 different sides without having to unclamp the piece and move it to a new position. Like the Moxon vise, I've used the bench crafted high vise screw only hardware kit. Once again, you'll see all of these vices come together at the end of the video. Every feature on this bench has multiple purposes or uses, apart from this one, the sliding dead man. It's a weird name, but its purpose is to support the end of longer work pieces that are held in the leg vise, and it slides along a track depending on the length of the workpiece. Now, because it's a bit of a one-trick pony, and probably something I won't use all the time, I want it to be easily removable.
Oh, I see. Okay. I see what that is.
I've been wanting to purchase a metal lathe for quite some time now, but just haven't gotten around to it. But it would have made this process a whole lot easier. I know I said earlier that I like solving solutions to problems, and trying to create brass handles without a metal lathe is a problem.
Yeah.
But I think I figured out a solution.
Oh my goodness. This is like a 5 minutes cross video.
Now, this method doesn't provide the most accurate outcome, as each handle is a little different, but we can just say each one has its own personality. Once again, this is excessive work, and let's face it, custom hardware isn't going to improve the usability of this workbench, and it's certainly not going to help my work progress in the future. But if you've seen much of my work, you will know I love using brass accents to accentuate certain details.
Yeah, brass is a nice touch.
To be a showcase of my work. You see, I use my workshop as a showroom for clients. As soon as they walk in, they can see that I'm organized and passionate about what I do. And this bench will show them the level of detail that they can expect in their own piece. Not to mention the fact that they'll know that their piece will be made on this very bench.
So he's gonna use this bench? I know I shouldn't be surprised by that. Yeah, brass goes really well. Why wouldn't he?
A big shout out has to go to my buddy Leroy.
I would have thought maybe he made it for a client who does like really specific work.
I had a specific idea for this plate, and Leroy really helped that come to life. I'm going to leave a link.
Basically something that doesn't use glue.
I suggest checking it out if you want to see a succinct and well laid out website. I'll also leave a link to his Instagram. I've got some highly figured English sycamore veneer that I'm going to be using for a future job and wanted to use some of it for this nameplate. The colour is identical to maple, and the fiddleback adds in a new subtle element to the benchtop. I've pressed the veneer onto some maple and had Leroy CNC my logo out using an 11-degree cutter so the lettering angles back slightly. I'm not usually one to place my logo in plain sight on a piece, but like I said, I had a specific idea that I wanted to test out. One that uses an existing element from the bench and incorporates it into my logo.
The brass? To do epoxy? I hope not. Oh, that's a really thin veneer.
Oil-based finishes tend to turn light-coloured woods amber, which isn't what I'm after for this maple. I want to keep its raw, natural colour. I'm going to achieve this by applying the first coat of oil with Fiddy's hard wax oil in white. Once dried, I apply 2 coats of the normal hard wax oil in a matte sheen. The white finish stops the maple from drastically changing colour. And it's now time to finally watch all the components come together.
Oh, I see. You added some, like, I guess cork or something to the edge. Smart. Ooh. That is nice. That's pretty cool.
There's something inexplicable about turning an idea into reality. This bench started as just a thought many years ago, as a potential solution to help solve the issues I have when it comes to making furniture. And that idea is now a reality. But this piece resembles much more for me. Not only was this a bucket list item to build, but it also resembles a shift in my career. You see, this video is only my 20th build video here on YouTube, and thanks to the support of all of you, as well as all those on Patreon, I'm able to take on less
that is
client work
nice.
and focus more time on creating videos.
Very
like
nice.
this. And even though I'm not entirely sure where this is going or what this means, one thing I can promise is that I'll continually build the most challenging things I can think of and bring you along for the journey. By no means could I have ever imagined that this would take 2.5 months to complete. But the long
tool holder
process of meticulously crafting this bench has created a sense
I will
of
say
joy within me that I
he didn't
expect.
do a lot of like nooks
I
and
will
crannies
admit
that
the
shavings
first
can
scratch
just
on
go
this bench
into
will
and
hurt a little,
stay.
just like the first scratch
Could be
on
pretty
your
easy
new
to clean.
cast iron
Maybe
table saw
except
or
for
on your brand
the
new car.
pop-up
But the
dogs.
reality is, this is a tool and it needs to be used, and I'm excited to see how it will evolve as I grow as a woodworker.
I love bench
some
dogs
of
so
you will have
much,
the view that
especially
this
the
is
pop-up kind.
overkill, that it's just a place to work. But my sentiment is exactly that.
Yeah, they look
This
so
is
nice
a
to
place
use.
to work. It's a place to be inspired. And what better way to be inspired
And he's got a
than by
really
the
nice
very
floor.
bench you're using to create your next piece.
Ah. This is actually pretty smart. He can do this. He has polished concrete floors. They look so nice. You can do this as like a showcase for your plans for this bench, and then realistically anybody can build this bench without the fancy bits. And without the nice wood, and it'll be like a really good bench for them to use practically, and they won't worry about, you know, messing it up. That's crazy. That's wild. Looks fucking beautiful. It does. It looks so nice. And I guess for like the target audience, you know, the people who are gonna enjoy this are people who use that kind of tool, and they, you know, they would never have a bench like that. So that's like all the more reason for them to watch this video. Yeah, true. You could make it probably a lot cheaper with like normal wood. Not drawers. Drawers.
Get out of here.
So fast.
Get out of here, man.
Shit, I'm saying. All the videos I've seen are basically art. Yeah. That one being no exception. This isn't makers and crafting. That's your opinion. I forgot. I actually wanted to set the category. Just sleeping. I was sleeping a little bit. I fell asleep a little bit. Angela?
Could she be any cuter? Who's that wonderful girl?
Do you need protein shakes? Spoilers, yes, but there's a catch.